us getting to this place, I mean, we think we're thinking differently. This has been something going on for a while. Mental health become even more of a conversation because I think that human beings deep inside, we long for a utopian world where everything just makes sense for us.
You believe that we are now in a time of crisis, and because of that, hopelessness.
We have hit a point. Hopelessness is going to be the prevailing thought. What it just costs to live is now 15 to 20% maybe just to live. We've been told you can be, anything you want to be. And now real life is messing against that. But I also believe there's always a glimmer of hope, especially for those who are willing to live in an authentic way. Hey, what's up, guys? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the New Rule Podcast. There's your boy, Adrian, here. I am joined by the one, the only, Bartow's finest.
Breezy.
Dude, you're getting your own little call sign coming in. My goodness, that is amazing.
My goodness.
My goodness. I know, I'm showing my age. What up, Bri?
Not much. How's it going? First time in the new office space.
I know.
Well,
yeah.
Second time.
Second time, yeah. We did in our other conference room. Yeah, we just moved as all of our organizations. We moved over to a new office space, only about 500 feet away from our old office, but definitely upgrade. And man, Bri and the crew did an amazing job designing it. I mean, maybe we'll do behind the scenes at some point, showing a lot of our creative stuff around it. Because again, a creative space matters, and so we are excited about it. But hey, if you're new here to the New Rules community, we want to welcome you. The New Rules podcast really is all about this. It's about this idea of authenticity. We believe that authenticity is self-awareness with the resilience to remain self-aware, and we really want to see authentic leaders really launch into the world. And so we believe the future will be held by authentic leaders. It's not those who feel a certain way, but it's actually those who live out of actually who they are. And so that is what this podcast is all about, diving into topics current to how do you actually live as an authentic person in the world today that craves for authenticity, but yet and still most people don't live that way. And so that's what we're here to do. And a lot of it's just personal. It's our journey. It's a lot of the work that we actually do with clients throughout corporate America. And so, man, we are excited you're here. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe or whatever podcast platform that you listen to. Man, like the YouTube video, share them on IG, TikTok, wherever you find yourself. Man, we would really, really appreciate that. So, Bri, we're going to get started today. What are we going to do today to start this off?
We're going to do a draft.
All right. People do like the drafts. When we do a draft, we do get a little bit of love from the draft. So, Bri, can you explain to the people what is today's draft about?
Today we are doing guilty pleasure songs. So songs that you love, but you're embarrassed to admit it.
There we go. Guilty pleasure song. This all came yesterday when we were just kind of talking about what we wanted to do for the pod. And I think, I don't know, it was, I don't even know how it was a song.
Out of nowhere, I was like, hey, I'm probably going to ask you a question, so think of the answer. What's one song that you love, but you're really embarrassed to admit it? And then he was like, let's do another draft.
It would be because I was like, let's do the draft because I was like, man, there's so many great songs. And what's really, and again, because of the age gap, what's interesting is going to be just the crowd, the voting, just because, again, there are going to be certain things, which, again, you actually do have a little bit of an old soul. So a lot of times I'm bringing up songs. You're like, oh, yeah, you know them, whatever.
But sometimes I feel like my guilty pleasure song might be the song that you grew up listening to on the radio.
Yeah. It's like, but there's some guilty pleasure songs that I actually grew up to as well. Or songs as I've been an adult, I'm like, oh, no, that's a guilty pleasure song for me. And
that was my childhood.
Yes. 100%. So I'm excited. So, Bri, that being said, you want to rock, paper, scissors, shoot for your first pick?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Boom. It's your boy. It's your boy.
You might have won this one, but you're going to lose the draft.
Whatever. Coming out the gate, oh, man. Your boy's going to go strong with 1,000 miles.
Elite.
by Vanessa Carlton.
That is the one that I think every single person, if they were doing a draft on this, they're going to put that on there.
It's definitely that. And then that song also at levels. I let Bri hear another rap version of this yesterday from some guys in Jacksonville that actually which is a bad song. Don't go YouTube it. But what I will tell you, every time every time the chorus comes on and I hear the song somewhere, I freak out. I was literally in Macy's one day and this song was playing in the background and I got real nervous because I thought my man was about to come in with that straight.
It makes sense if you're in Tallahassee, Florida.
Hood rap underneath it. So anyway, I'm going Vanessa Carlton number 1 again. That is like drafting Kobe at number 1. Good job, Adrian. All right, here we go, Bri.
Okay, so my first one is acquired. I think this one will probably point towards my generation.
Wow, here we go.
But it's just iconic. And it's Every Time We Touch by, I think it's Cascada is how you pronounce it. But it's in Every Time We Touch, I get this feeling.
Yeah, okay.
Just iconic.
Iconic. All right. Bri, the thing about it, that's one thing that's interesting about you. I do appreciate you about we do these drafts. You're just going to go with what you like.
I'm going to choose my actual guilty pleasure songs.
No. You're going to choose your guilty pleasure songs. But what I also do is like, you just like, man, this is the song. I'm going to go. This is what I want first. I'm going to pick it. Because that song right there would have been like, you could have had that song like last on the board. I never would have picked that song. Me, I go the straight draft. Like, okay, I'm in my mind like, what's Bri going to draft? I got to pick.
I'll do that if it's something that I really, really, really want.
Yeah.
But,
All right, number 2 for me, coming off the board, I'm going to go with Love by Keisha Cole.
Okay, that's a great one.
I'm going Love by Keisha.
That is a great pick.
Let me tell you right now, that song comes on, I
on
forget any bit. I don't care about that I'm a 45-year-old man with 3 children. I mean, I get sassy when Keisha Cole Love comes on.
Oh, that's funny.
Dude. Oh, yeah. Keisha Cole, elite song right there. Again, no matter where you're playing it at, barbecue, brunch, that song comes on. You go ahead and just shut it down. So, number 2, we're going right there. Love, Keisha Cole.
Number 2, I'm going with the iconic I Kissed a Girl. I Like It.
Dang it.
I had to throw Katy Perry in there. That was my one that I'm like, I knew you would choose a Katy Perry song.
Dude.
Might still choose her, just not that song. But that one is just, I have this vivid memory of being, however old I was, probably 8 or something, in the backseat of the car, just singing that song to the top of my lungs. And my mom was like, Brianna Nicole, like, stop singing this song. Like, stop singing those lyrics. Only your brothers can sing this song. I'm like, okay, Mom.
Hey, listen, let me tell you this. Katy Perry, I knew if I picked that, though, I may have somebody, some weird church person in my mentions talking about, oh, I can't believe you picked that. You can't believe it. Listen, man, I don't care who you are. That song slaps. That song slaps.
Let me listen to the songs that you
I'm saying,
listen
man,
to in your car.
Bri, talk about it, Bri. Hey,
Okay.
listen, that's what I'm saying, man. The music police be out there. Music police. All right, here we go. Next for your boy. That's a great pick at number 2, Bri. I think number 3 for your boy. I think I'm going to have to go with somebody right now who's really shaking the world up with her world-famous tour. I'm going to have to go with T. Sweezy with We Are Never Getting Back Together.
Oh, that's a great one. I was like, don't take mine now.
Right now, T. Sweezy is in her bag. And so, when that song comes on, I don't care. Doesn't matter who I'm around. I'm singing that song. Matter of fact, my youngest loves Taylor Swift. So, boy, I'm getting a lot of Taylor Swift.
Get her ticket to the Eras tour.
Yo, yeah, if I'm like, I'm not paying 2 bands to be sitting in the nosebleeds. You know what I'm saying? Like, that ain't happening. And then, her crazy self's like, Dad, we can just go to Europe. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, just jump on a plane. Just fly to Europe. Heck no.
Let her be I don't think it's the right term, but the person who goes around following people in concerts.
Roadies?
Yeah.
Dude, listen, that T. Sweezy ticket is a hot ticket. There's a lot of bread right now. What's crazy is she even told me they're doing like the Eras tour. They're showing it in movie theaters, and it's already, and a lot of them are already sold out.
Yeah.
She can't even get to the movie. I'm like, yo, you know how, like, listen, she's reaching, and this is going to say black people about to get mad at me.
Yeah.
I ain't saying she Michael Jackson, but she's reaching Michael Jackson level fandom. That is wild. I mean, you're talking about every show sold out, multiple nights. You got movie theater. That was kind of when I grew up, how it was for Michael Jackson, where it was just like everything he did was iconic, was big. I mean, this is before the internet and all the stuff like that. And he would have thousands upon thousands filling up arenas and stadiums and stuff like that.
You know, it's a little bit of a rabbit trail, but it's so interesting to me. Just like how many people are so fascinated with her, and that's because I don't dislike her at all. I think that she is a pretty good vocalist. I think she's an incredible songwriter. I think she's a pretty okay performer. But I don't think when I think of the best off of like pure talent, I don't really think of Taylor Swift, to be honest. I love her. Great storyteller, incredible storyteller, but she's not like, when you look at the pure talent, I don't think she's A+ across the board in comparison to what's out there.
I would tell you, I think she's an A+ like writer.
Yes.
A+ writer. I think she's mid vocally. She's a mid performer, but what she is A+ in, from what everyone has said and the things, what the show she puts together.
Yes, like, it's an experience.
Yeah, so I think that's the part where it takes it to a new level. Because, when I think about people, like I think about someone like Chris Brown, right? I mean, you think about vocally, you think about dancing, performance, all that. But then when you watch like a Chris Brown show, that's one thing I look at, like a guy like a Chris Brown. You look at his his concerts, and they're like, yeah, they're okay. Like they're, dancing's whatever. But if you put Chris Brown, you say, okay, we're going to put a bunch of money behind this. We're going to do the whole experience. Chris Brown could be at a whole, even regardless of your thoughts about Chris Brown, but from a talent standpoint, I mean, he's one of the most talented people out there. I mean, again, I think Beyonce rivals that. I mean, vocally elite, vocally elite. Great, dance-wise, does a phenomenal job. Great show. So that's why I think those two right now are what they are, the two biggest shows out there. But yeah,
and I will say my last point on that, and go back to the draft, is that I think my theory is that I think that people have fallen in love with her life.
Yeah.
I think that the storytelling is incredible, but like when she sings her songs, we've also, I feel like, had such a view, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, into like who she's writing about and the story behind it. I think that people fall in love with those stories and also can relate to them. And so it adds a whole other, layer behind it.
It really does. And I think that, it's, when you read about like art and artists, it's like what people get to enjoy many times is really an artist's pain.
Right.
And you get to see that. So, I wonder, you talk Taylor Swift, would she trade what she has and what she went through for, like, actually she would, like, had, like, somebody she found that she fell in love with, that she was married, and, like, the whole, like, life with whatever, would she trade that? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, maybe she's talked about that in an interview or whatever, but, I mean, but like I said, she's she's given us, incredible music and things like that. So, all right, well, there we go. T-Sweeze for your boy. Your boy is in his bag, in my bag today.
I have a hard shift from Taylor Swift, and my hard shift
that's about to be interesting.
is to "Numb" by Linkin Park. I've become so
dude, that's an elite song right there. That's an elite song.
It's great. Like, it's one of those songs where it's like, I don't really feel guilty about many songs, but most of these are like, if somebody's in my car while I'm playing it, I'm going to be a little bit like I'm going to preface before I put the song on.
All right. Here we go. A next one for me. Definitely get real sassy with this song. Me and You by Cassie. Is it Cassie? Yeah, it's Cassie. Yeah. Me and You by Cassie.
Great.
Elite track. Definitely when that song comes on, I'm listening to that. That's on rotation. So, again, if you don't know that song, I know my man in post-production, Grady, going to have a lot of work in post-production, kind of popping these songs up and doing this.
I know we're going to get flagged. We're going to get our YouTube videos taken down. We can't play these songs. We don't have copyright.
Hey, we can't put quick clips in? You can't put quick clips in? Dang.
We can put in silent clips of the music videos. Let's get the visuals.
Man. All right. Here we go. You're great to just post up the little visuals. All right, here we go. Got Cassie in the fourth. Cassie in the fourth round. Great pickup for your boy. All right, here we go, Bri. Fourth pick.
My next one is Everybody by Backstreet Boys.
Ooh.
Everybody. Yeah.
All right, Backstreet's back. All right, in the fourth round, that's not bad.
All right.
All right, here we go. Next up for me, I'm going to go with Rick Ansley. Never gonna give you up.
Oh, that's a great one. I actually had that one on my list.
Down. Never gonna turn around and desert you.
But I feel like that's just a good song.
It is. It really is.
Like,
never gonna say goodbye.
Okay. Wait, you saw that video of Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah.
Whenever he sang it on The Voice.
Dude, listen, Rick Ansley, Rick Roll right there in the fifth round. Great pickup. That's like picking up Tom Brady right there. Sixth round pick, Hall of Famer. There we go. All right, Bri, your fifth pick.
Fifth pick is Britney Spears, Baby One More Time.
Iconic.
Hit
Iconic.
Me, baby, one more time. I'm going to be here for Halloween. I told you this.
All right, that's right.
Yeah.
You are like old Britney or new Britney.
I'm still determining which.
Wow.
Well, I'm not going to be Britney Spears now.
Okay, that's what
if that's what
you're
you're
saying. I'm like old Britney or
like,
new
which
Britney?
era? I'm like, well, probably not now.
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
It's very unfortunate.
I know.
Story.
All right. All right, here we go. Man, next up for your boy, and I am going to go with this. I'm going to go with Carly Rae Jepsen, I think is her name.
Jimson?
Gibson? Call Me Maybe.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy.
Here we go. Sixth pick, elite pick by your boy. Here we go, Bri. You're up. Sixth pick.
Okay, my sixth one. Some people aren't going to get it. And that's okay.
I love
and
how
you're gonna think
I love how you
you're gonna
your
think
bummy picks.
this is hilarious.
Okay.
But mine is Colt 45 by Afro Man.
Yo, hey,
if you know,
listen,
you know.
Dude, listen, here's why I am all for that, because this speaks to both Bri and I. Bri genuinely is putting out her guilty pleasure. Some of these are my guilty pleasure songs for sure, but I am drafting to win. Bri's like, no, I'm just gonna put my guilty pleasure. Hey, she did, but she went. Hey,
listen, if I'm ever running, you hear me? I'm going to Cascades to run. You know what I'm playing?
Colt 45
and Tuesday Sacks
by Afro Man. Yo, that was a deep cut right there. Listen, I had nothing but respect for that pick right there. All right. Here we go. My last pick. Again, this is our last one. We had two. We had two off the bench. So, man, gosh, dude, I am struggling between two picks, and I'm gonna go with. This is one for me. I got to go with it. I'm gonna go with "Hold On" by Wilson Phillips. Hold on by Wilson. Hold on for one more day. If you hold on for one more day. Elite 90s out there. Anybody in the 90s, you know this song. I think it's 90s, 80s or 90s. You're going to give me some love for it. Wilson Phillips, since you went with like Afro Man, I went with Wilson Phillips right there because that song, I love it. I went with the real one right there. It was going to be between that or I was going to go with, I don't mind, I was going to go with Shakira. Whatever, together.
That's good.
So, all right, Bri, last pick of the draft that I know for sure I've won, but let's go ahead. Let's just do it for funsies.
You're not going to know this song.
This is every song. Like, every song you're prepping these bad picks. Go for it.
No, that's fine. The people who know. Mm-hmm. And so there's this movie on Disney Channel called Lemonade Mouth. Have you heard of it?
No, I have
Anyways, there's a song on it called Determinate. You need to look it up right now because it slaps.
Oh.
It absolutely slaps. It is so good. And the people who understand, who have seen it, will understand completely. And that's who I'm talking to.
All right.
But I do have a few worthy mentions.
Okay, let's go through some worthy mentions that you did pick up.
You want to go first?
No, you go. You got it.
Fergalicious.
Dude, that's a good one. If you like... That should have been in the definitely just working on my fitness. that's my favorite line. Just working on my fitness.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Paparazzi by Lady Gaga.
Another elite one, yeah.
Rockstar, Nickelback.
Yes.
Love is a Battlefield.
Ooh.
Love is a battlefield. Unwritten.
What song is that? Who sings that?
Natasha
Bedingfield?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, got it.
Reaching for something in the distance.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, those are the few that I have written down.
For me, I've got, that I was going to put in there. What did I pick? Which one did I go? What's T Sweezy song that I go with? We're never getting back together. I did that. Shake It Off,
You Belong With Me.
You Belong With Me. Definitely would pick.
Style.
I should have went with, I was definitely going to go with Firework by Katy Perry. Who
That's great.
Definitely one.
Last Friday night, Katy Perry.
Yeah. Shaggy, Wasn't Me. Another lead song.
Another one was what I don't know the actual title of the song, but it's like Because I Got High.
I was yes, Afro Man.
Oh,
that was Afro Man. Yo,
I'm not like this avid Afro Man. Wait, maybe we should cut that part.
Because
I had no idea. I'm not too. Let me make a statement. I'm not an avid Afro Man.
Yeah, Bri, listen. Hey, Polk County.
Those are the only two I know. I swear.
Yo, she put out some Afro Man deep cuts. Here we go. Another one for me was Mickey. Hey Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind.
That's good.
That's definitely
Barbie
one.
Girl. I'm a Barbie girl.
Yep. Then What Is Love?
Oh,
baby, don't hurt me. Anyway, so that being said, we're going to post these up. Make sure you let us know who won the draft. And listen, if you don't pick your boy, then I get it. Bri's younger, looks way better than I do. That's why you pick Bri. But it can't be on just it can't be on the sheer fact.
Don't diminish the quality of my work.
Your picks were
because
buns.
I'm beautiful.
No, it's not. No. Your picks were buns. But
in your opinion. In your experience.
And I think the world will tell us that my pick was really.
You know what? These are the times I'm happy that we have a Right New Rules Instagram account because it's not your audience anymore.
Wow. But my audience,
even though it's still a little bit your audience.
It is, but you know what? That's fine.
Because if we put this on my story, we know what we should do. We should put it on your story and my story
and
see who wins and on the Right New Rules and see who wins on each one.
That bet. There we go. That's fine. Everybody's. I mean, listen. I know this. Your grandmother's gonna go over there and and your whole family's gonna like all my stuff. You know what I'm saying? Your whole family's gonna like
y'all. My grandma loves Adrian.
Hey man, that's what I'm saying. Hey,
so text me during the lives. Where's Adrian today? If he's not on stage, where's Adrian?
Hey man, listen. You know what I'm saying? Your boy appeals to the 7-year-old demographic. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man.
Better you than me.
It's a true story. All right. With that being said, Bri, let's jump into today's pod. All right. Well, we are jumping in episode 23, the Michael Jordan podcast, the GOAT, by the way. Even though I'm from Akron, I love LeBron James, but Michael Jordan's the GOAT. So episode 23, the Jordan episode. But no, today we're going to be talking about something that I've been thinking a lot about, and it's definitely going to really tie into this idea of authenticity, but it's really talking about really the future and where I feel like the world's kind of headed. Some of you have heard me mention there's a guy by the name of Mark Sayers who's out of Melbourne, Australia. Mark is a pastor, but beyond being a pastor, I believe that he's one of probably the best cultural apologists in the world. Just his ability to know and see and sense where the world's going, gather information, not just from a Christian standpoint, just in general. And so he's recently, and we'll link these in the show notes, done a few podcasts that he's done really about what he's thinking about coming forward in the future. And it's been fascinating talking about what he calls first, second secularism to where we really are heading into. And where he likes to call crisis individualism. And what's really sparked to me is because what he's been able to do is actually give me language to something that I have felt for a while that's been coming. And so today we're going to actually dive into this and this idea of kind of like hope I can believe in, because what I actually think has been we are heading to a real place in our world of a lot of hopelessness. I think that we have hit a point in our society, especially here in the West, where hopelessness is going to be the prevailing thought and really the prevailing kind of like attitude in our country that's coming up. And I know that in our super positive world, our mantra world, and saying our affirmation world, that is going to be pushing against that. But I really believe that's where we're headed. But I also believe there's always, when there's something negative, there's always, even though I feel like we're going to be hopeless, I believe there's a glimmer of hope that's actually there. And I believe especially for those who are willing to live in an authentic way. And so, yeah, so we're going to dive in there, talk about that, and just see where it takes us today.
Mm-hmm. So to start us off, something that I liked that Mark Sayers actually mentioned was that we've lived in what would be called a nice world. And the acronym stands for no inflation, consistent expansion. But you've said that you believe that we are now in a time of crisis, and because of that, hopelessness is rising. Yep. So, sometimes we say these like really big statements and then we glide by them because we understand the depth of them. But I don't want to glide by the fact that we're saying like we're living in a crisis and we're living in hopelessness. So I think the weight of that needs to sit on people's souls as we continue to talk about it. Yep. Can you share a little bit about what you've seen and what you see in the world that's telling us that that's where we are? Yeah,
I think that for the longest time, our world has kind of been like up and to the right. And even though we've had, we had the 08, 09 financial crisis, we had 2020, we had COVID, and there were some dips that were there in the market. We had COVID, and we have, where we see war that's happened. We've seen social unrest. We've seen politics go to such partisan places. And so we've seen a lot of those things kind of happening. But I think why I feel like we've gone to a place of like crisis is because, but with all that being said, we just have pumped money in the market. I mean, here's the truth about it. When you, especially living here in the West, when you're living like in an economy that's kind of like thriving, even though 08, 09, the real estate market, the bust there, it was still where we bailed people out and we put a bunch of money in the market. COVID pumped a bunch of money in the market. So everything was still moving forward to where like people really didn't have to like shift. I mean, their lives totally. Now, if you were in the real estate market back in 08, 09, you did. But for the most part, people just, money gets pumped into the market and keep it moving. What's happened is that but there was really no high inflation. Interest rates were low. Even during COVID, you could borrow money cheap. But all that's really changing now, where in cost of living, it's just gone up at a radical level to where what it just costs to live is now in the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, it's gone up close to anywhere, I think, between 15 to 20% maybe, just to live. Not just, I'm buying something, just to rent groceries, gas. I mean, you look at how much gas has gone up. So now what's happened is that, you've kind of, and I'll love to hear your thoughts. I mean, you've kind of grown up in a time to where that's really what you've known. Now, and we were just told, man, you could borrow money for cheap. Hey, you want to go to this event, go here, go to this trip, do all this. Now people have to make decisions on oh, I can't, my friends are going maybe on a trip. I can't go because, man, my money don't stretch like it used to. And then that's making people kind of think, and they're hitting resistance. I think that we're hitting a moment as well to where you're seeing mental health become even more of a conversation, because I think that people have they have just lived at these limits and extremes, and we've been told you can be, we'll get into this, anything you want to be. And what's happening, they're bumping up against real life, because you've heard us say this so much on this podcast. It's not a true statement. And what people are facing, real life now, because when you lived in a market that's been propped up like this, you can live in a fantasy like that. You can live to where, man, whatever fantasy you want to create and make, I can just be this. And now real life is messing against that. I mean, even when you look at the height and the conversation that's been around the idea of race and identity and gender and all those things that are going on, which some of these, these conversations were good, but I think some of these things have gone to a cliff that's gone a little bit crazy. Mm-hmm. People are pushing back against that. You're seeing people who once were very maybe far right politically now are saying some of these things don't work and they're going left. You see people who thought the far left, who I knew were very left, are now like, yo, these politics don't work. I'm going right. It's just you're seeing people now living in really like kind of what they thought would be this utopian world to where now real life is pressing up against us. And I think it's causing people to really now realize like, man, as much as we believe in ourselves and the American ingenuity and the person and who I am within, we're realizing there's limits to us, and they're kind of looking like, what in the hell is actually happening? Because what I was promised wasn't that. I mean, you think about it, Bri. You're at an age where you thought maybe at this point, man, I would own a home or do whatever, and you're like, oh, to go borrow money to get a house, even though you do well for yourself, you're like, this is crazy right now. So that's the whole thing, and it can come off as like that's not fair. Because you're like, I'm finally in the workforce. I finally have a chance to do this. And now, like, I may not have opportunities that, like, my parents had or other people had. The world's changing. So that's a lot where I feel like we are heading into crisis. I mean, we're going to get more into politics and we're going to get more into more economics, whatever. But I think that's kind of where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Something that I guess just clicked for me at a deeper level that I feel like I had a little bit of a grasp of it beforehand, but clicked to me at a deeper level while you're talking is just what power finances have over our state of being. Why do you think that money, the financial system, all of that has so much power over us? Because you can see the ways that everything that people are putting their hope in, from politics to Christians or, whatever it is that you believe in, whether you admit to what that is or not, once something happens to the financial system, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because what I heard, one of my mentors said this to me a long time a while back, and he says that why money is so a thing is because it's the one thing that has like a godlike quality. And what I mean by that, money and power. So it's the thing that can it can make you feel like you have security. It can make you feel like you have a false sense of security, right? So all of a sudden, if I am, if you think about if I live in this neighborhood, and so since I live in this neighborhood because I spent this type of money, then that kind of keeps me away from the bad whatever. What people are starting to see now is if you live out in LA, it doesn't matter where you live at. Man, people are being affected at high levels. And here I say by people experiencing homelessness and they're starting to see, not just because from people who are experiencing homelessness, but just in general, how violence is starting to happen in a lot of different places. Things aren't just if I could just escape where I could live in this neighborhood and never see people experiencing homelessness. And so in that money could just buy you away from that stuff. Now when the market starts to hit, you're starting to realize oh, I can't do that. And on top of that, it's you're now having to sacrifice more. You're having to realize, I'm gonna have to change my life. That's what really hits. So the biggest thing is I think when people start losing and money starts hitting, because you start to realize I gotta start making sacrifices. Then you start wondering, what if I don't have? Am I gonna have to downgrade? What is that gonna look like? Because now you start thinking about this, when your friends may ask you, hey, let's go on a trip, and you're like, man, I can't. That's embarrassing. In somebody's mind, that can be, even though it shouldn't be, it feels embarrassing. Or if with me, I have been very fortunate with what we're building and doing, but even with Wendy and I, my wife, it's our children have lived in a way for a while, but even now we're starting to help them, to build into them to understand hey, their limits. And starting to build that into them because, I understand the world they're going into. So we're starting to help them understand that now. But sometimes it's no, hey, I know, you may have a friend who I don't know if their parents are doing what they make, what they're borrowing, whatever. But yeah, we're not gonna be able to do that. And so, that's one of those things to where I don't want to say that to my kids sometimes, but it's important for me to do that. So I think it's embarrassment. I think there's fear that comes with it because all of a sudden you start going to these worlds well, you can go, the thing is you start going to the worst case scenario. Am I going to be on the street? What's going to happen with this? What about this? Can I lose my job? Man, and then on top of that, people leverage themselves so much in debt. I don't remember the number, but credit card debt right now is at an all-time high. And with people having to pay those high interest rates, I mean, people leveraged themselves when money was cheap to borrow. So now all that's coming to roost. I mean, if you look right now, one thing that they're saying is that we are in a full, like we have hit the cliff for commercial real estate, where a lot of people borrow money really cheap. So they borrowed money really cheap a while back, and now they got to pay those loans. And so you have a lot of people who are wealthy commercial real estate companies 3 or 4 years ago or 2 years ago who now have had to file bankruptcy because they can't have, their not occupancies aren't being filled up because businesses are a little bit more remote. The rent rates, all that stuff has changed, and they can't stretch that money. So now you've got people like who are, leverage in all these different areas. And so the fear, all that stuff that comes with that. So I think that's why it just starts to shake you, because what we do, we put our trust, because it has that godlike quality. They can buy us a sense of control, but we know it deep inside, it really doesn't.
So how do you manage the tension of that? Because at the same time, wanting to make money isn't a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And in the same breath, there are levels that money does provide you security. Yep. From, maybe being able to afford health insurance to living in a better neighborhood and things of that nature. How do you manage the tension of that? Because it does and it doesn't all in the same breath.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong, and I want to be really clear. There's nothing wrong with having aspirations to want to make money and to try to make as much money as you possibly can. What I think happens is that the way you have to manage it is you have to also understand that being able to live within the context of the means of what you have. I get it. I was never taught money growing up. So I've always been a person for a lot of my life that lived like outside of my means, because I always could create wealth. I could create money. I could run a business. I start a business. I can make money. But as I'm getting older, what I'm starting to realize, so I'm thinking about, oh man, like, at 45, you're like, I love working. I want to work as long as I physically can work. That's why I've been working so much on health and all that, because I really like working. I want to work as long as I physically can, like, to work. I don't believe in like, hey, 65, retire. I don't. Like, I'm like, what? Like, I don't want to go freaking play golf, or like, that sounds miserable to me. Like, I actually want to like help and invest in people, whatever. But I'm thinking about retirement. I have to. I don't want to be a burden to my kids. So now I'm like, I'm starting to really, at this point in my life, really start to think about that at a different level. I did a little bit before, but at a different level now. Point being is that I think that you have to live within your means. I think that's how you balance it. You have to know, like, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What are you pushing for? What's the plan? Why do you want to make money? And if you do want to make money, just to have a plan is super important. That's how I think you balance it. I think when people get out of whack is when it become controlling, is when you start to live way past the edge. Mm-hmm. And I think where now everybody's going to, like, before you could live way past that edge a little bit, but now that's coming home to roost. Like, the level of what interest rates are and things like that, it's nuts. And so I think people are living in very dangerous areas sometimes in their life. So it's just the balance of living within the context of your means, I believe.
Yeah. And there does seem to be this sense that even the person who has such high self-control or financial intellect, there is a level where money is still out of their control because of what it's dictated by from super large entities. Yes. And that's what I feel like brings, when moments like this happen, brings people start to freak out because they realize what a lack of control they have over things in the market and interest rates and whoever the person is behind the Wizard of Oz curtain that we can't even fully name. That's pulling all of these strings where it's like, well, all of a sudden the dominoes have fallen and we're all screwed no matter how good we are at spending money.
It is. And I also think that we always kind of think like in the moment, we think it's just right now. No, this has been something going on for a while. This has been like us getting to this place. I think so many times we think, especially in America, we think we're so unique, we're so creative, innovative. I think there's innovation here, all that. But we're also many times just like sheep. We think we're thinking differently. I think outside the box and whatever. And what you start to realize, you've been pushed there. And now it's even more. Financial institutions, corporations, they pretty much dictate and control you more than you think so. I mean, from what you get marketed to then they're getting all the data points. They're getting all the stuff that knows like what type. I mean, again, we joke about it and we see it all the time about, oh man, on your Instagram feed, the type of stuff. People know I love vintage t-shirts. So man, they're going to be giving me all the great vintage t-shirts, the type of style I like, they're not putting any bummy vintage t-shirts. It's all high quality vintage t-shirts with these types of people. And so here's the thing. And so what ends up happening is that you just get pushed down these roads that you don't even realize you're getting pushed down the road. It's like a current, just a light current taking you out somewhere. Right. And then all of a sudden you wake up, you're like, oh, I'm in the middle of the ocean. How the heck did I get out here? And it does not matter where you come from, how much money you make or whatever. At the end of the day, we have been pushed and dictated by financial institutions more than anything else, especially nowadays, more than politics, more than used to be when I was growing up, pop culture, Hollywood. No, it is financial institutions are the ones really controlling things. And I think people are now just coming and I think it's going to get a lot worse. I mean, I was reading something the other day, instead of silent quitting and things like that, now they're starting to have this idea of silent. It's like this, they were saying something like silent letting go and silent firing, where corporations and companies are firing people and letting go, but they're doing it very private. It's not like, sometimes a company, we just laid off, 5,000 people. Yeah. They're laying off 200 here, a few hundred here, 500 here, and they're doing stuff like that very silent. They're not making it public. And so here's the thing. There are people out there right now that who are in a place where they may have gotten let go. And who knows if people are hiring? I mean, people are very much so. Companies are tight with their money. So I think some of this hopelessness is going to continue to rise as we have other costs, healthcare costs, food costs, all that stuff continues to rise.
Mm-hmm. Speaking to what you think about the state of humans and why you think that we view the world this way, or why we have a hard time adjusting, because the reality is that we've talked about this happening for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like what do we always say? If the market goes up, it's going to come down. Yep. If it's down, it's going to go up. And we live in that consistent cycle, and it looks slightly, it just rhymes every time. Yep. Why do you think it is that, we get up and to the right and then we just stick our heads in the clouds and forget what's to come and don't prepare ourselves for what we know is coming?
I think it's where, and that's a great question. I think it's because human beings deep inside, we long, we talked about it in our Barbie Oppenheimer. I think we long for a utopian world where everything just makes sense for us. And it's the perfect world for us. And many times those worlds are not with discomfort. That's really our world today. Why we pumped a bunch of money in the market. And I know that as we're talking about this, we're setting all this up so everybody knows, we're talking about the money market. This is not going to be this whole pod, but it's really to let you know where building the case of why hopelessness is coming. It's because of this. It's because we want this perfect curated world, but we live in a world that's broken. We live in a world where, stuff sucks and hardship comes and firings happens and deaths happen and unfortunate events take place and hurricanes take place and all the stuff. And so what happens is that we get up and to the right, we just want to forget, because why? Because when you're up in there to the right, I think we know deep within there's something that may could come, but we just want to ignore that because we have been built, and this is the big part, we have been built in our country to see hardship, suffering, and things like that not in any way as a good thing. We've just seen it as all bad, and it's only good when things are up and to the right. Oh man, things are going well. The economy's going. When my job's going well, when my relationship is going well, when my friendships are going well, when whatever, my fantasy football team's going well, when all those things are going well, we're all good. But what we don't want to admit is that, some of the best parts of us and some of the greatest growth in human beings happen in the midst of lack and suffering and hardship. We built this nation, became the prosperous nation was after going through a World War, two of them, in a Great Depression. And that's when some of the greatest companies we know today happened. There were so many great companies built out of 08, 09, the real estate market crisis. But we don't want to do that. We listen to books of great leaders and all the hardships they went through to turn into who they are. But I always say this, everybody wants to be a world changer. Nobody wants that life. Everybody wants to see things better, but suffering and hardship actually do that. So I think that's a long answer to a short question, is that we go We get there because we've been built not to want to like pain and and try to ignore it. So it's kind of the elephant in the room. We know hardship is there. We know things are going to come, but we just can stay up and to the right and just, as long as we can, let's just ride the roller coaster and then we'll deal with it later. And that's never a good thing.
Mm-hmm. So you're mentioning a lot of the ideologies that we believe in that are essentially failing us whenever we hit a time of pain and suffering. How do you think that radical individualism connects to this?
Yeah, we talk a lot about radical individualism, and what we really mean by that is just this idea that like it's the individual self being greater than everything. And that has been, I think, the world for a long time. We've lived in. We've lived in a world for a long time that has been like, man. And I think the height of that, even though it seems like it wasn't, but I do believe the height of it was President Obama. And this is not President Obama's fault. So hear me when I say this, but the whole, like, even his mantra, like, change we can believe in. It was like, man, we can change. Everything can change if you just believe. And it's like, I don't care how much I believe for certain things. It ain't going to change anything. And so I think that what's happened is radical individualism has left people empty because it's the whole Martin Luther King when he said, "I have a dream" speech, man. You know, America was given a promissory note. You know what I'm saying? They were given this note to say, "I'm going to promise you this," to Black Americans. I think we were given a promissory note in our country about, man, if you live authentic, if you just believe in yourself, if you just, man, whatever you're feeling, that's your authentic self. Pull that out, bring that to the world. You bring that to the world, it's going to change the world. You're going to be great. And we were promised that. And now that thing is showing up and we're like, oh shit, no, it's not. Yeah. Not at all. It's absolutely turned into like a nightmare because I think that is a failed ideology that's been so harmful because it was a lie. It was a lie that said that if you just do whatever you want to do, it's going to lead to your prosperity and everybody else can prosper. And it's completely a lie. And it's a thing on both sides of even a political aisle. Don't touch my body. If you're on the left, don't touch my guns and money. You're on the right. And there's other things that go along with that. But in that, here's what we're told. And we're like, oh, man, if this person has it, just think about this. It doesn't matter who's sitting in office. Whether if you have an all-Republican president, Congress, everything, it's still same issue. All left, Democrats, same issues. Because they both lead to radical individualism and they've promised us something they can't deliver. Human beings have limits. And that's what radical individualism has shown. And that's where when life bumps up against us, we're now realizing, oh, no, I don't care how much you do this. You know how many people I know who practice all of these things, yet mindfulness, eat clean, work out, do all of that, and I've seen people die of a heart attack or get cancer doing all the right stuff. And then there's people you see over there, man, like just grubbing on McDonald's their whole life, smoke cigs, like drink all the time. And them jokers are like 95 years old, like living like healthy. And you're like, and my point is that none of that, there's limits that human beings have. And that's what we're starting to realize. And that's where radical individualism is failing. And that's where I feel like it's built hopelessness because we were all promised, do what you feel, pull out that authentic self, and you're going to change the world. And people are realizing, oh, yeah, that didn't really work.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are the benefits, kind of the opposing side of the radical individualism is just the heightened sense of community, more centralized communities. What do you think is the benefit of that? And what do you think is the con of that? Because really radical individualism is a response to all the time that we spent living in more centralized communities.
Yeah. I think centralized communities, people lost a sense of self. It was that the community defined you. And so if you were in a mining community, you became a miner. If you were, if you were in a community that worked at, up in Michigan and you worked in, you worked in a car dealer, kind of in a car factory, you became a car, you worked in that same plant that your mom and your dad worked in. And so you lost a sense of identity. So I think that's what happens with communities unhealthy. You lose a sense of identity. So the response out of that was more the radical individualism. I think there was other things that came into it. I think the internet played a part into this, globalization, all those things that get there. I also think, but there is a part of health, because I also believe that you really can't find yourself, your authentic self, outside of community. I don't believe we were meant to find it alone. I believe we were meant to find it within community. So why community matters is because I believe you can find your real authentic self in community. But I think with community gets heightened, anxiety gets heightened, and everybody just wants you to form to be who you are. And if you start to be outside of that, it starts, whoa, if you're not doing this, and it becomes everybody's fear, or like, man, what are you doing to contribute here? And people got lost in that. And so that was the response out of it. And so now we're living in kind of this world, so where people, where it's like they wanted to be solo, but now we need community. So now we're living again. Both of them at their extremes still go to people living out of a sense of their brokenness and not for what's best. Like you hear me say it all the time, everything and nothing. Your calling, your purpose has everything to do with you, nothing to do with you. Right. And so I think when individuals take that responsibility, that's what can begin to help, because you start to realize, no, my calling is about the betterment of the community. But also my calling is what? It's my calling because it's about me. It's mine. But my calling should be about the flourishing of humanity. Until next time, keep writing new rules.